11 o'clock. Welcome in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, and Chris Clark along with you as always. Happy to be joined by today's special guest, brand new coach of Gamecock softball, Ashley Chastain. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us today. I mean, you've been announced as the head coach a couple weeks ago. How have these first couple of weeks been for you?
Well, thank you guys for having me on. It's really cool to be here in the studio with you, and just really appreciate the support that I've felt over the past few weeks. And it's been a whirlwind. I've been telling people it's been a really big blessing in my life. Over the past few weeks, I've spoken with many alumni, many fans. Everyone's just been so supportive and so welcoming. On the recruiting front, it has been lightning speed. We've had a ton of kids on campus. We've been out recruiting off campus. So we're moving at lightning speed. My staff has done a really great job over the past few weeks of just, looking at the roster, what do we need? So we've been heavily focused on the roster these first few weeks, but, I'm just really grateful and thankful to be here.
Now, Coach, I know you talked about it in your press conference, but the chance to come home, like I know everybody that's probably coached at some point maybe has that little thought in the back of their mind, like, man, if I could ever coach in my alma mater, that would be pretty special. But to actually get the opportunity, it is somewhat rare. So how important or how just kind of amazing was that for you and your family that this opportunity actually did present itself? And at a young age as well, like it just kind of just worked out perfectly for you here, and I'm sure you're excited and grateful and all the emotions all at once.
Yeah, it's a dream come true. I think as a coach, you do have dreams to coach at your alma mater. I mean, I think for most coaches, that's their dream job. And so just to get the opportunity at this point in my life to lead this program and be a part of the athletic department, it's a dream come true. And it's been a dream come true for me and my family. My fiance, Robert, has been super supportive of the move. My parents, my extended family, everyone really knows what this means for me. And so it's really special, and I don't know if I can put it into words yet. I've been, just talking a lot about it over the past few weeks with all the recruits and the families that have been on campus with us. But yeah, it's a dream, and it has been, like I said, a really big blessing over the past few weeks.
Now, you have a softball baseball family. You mentioned your husband Robert. Who was the better player in college? Like, do y'all have these debates? Do y'all kind of go back and forth on that?
There is no doubt that he was a way better pitcher than me. So we both pitched, but he was way better than me. He's the winningest pitcher at North Carolina in UNC baseball history, Robert Woodard. So he was way better than me. I guess the debate we have is the Carolina thing, because he's a Tar Heel and I'm a Gamecock. So that has been a heavy debate in our household for years, and I think even stronger now. So
were you guys kind of at each other's throats when they played each other in football last year?
Yes, yeah, we try not to use the word Carolina once we enter the house because we kind of say Gamecocks and Tar Heels in the home. But yes, I mean any sporting event where the two compete against each other, it's really heated in our house.
Coach, to go back to like the hours, the days before you got this job, I mean, what was it like? I know you got, had some emotion at the press conference. You were just talking about being able to come back here. But when you first got that call that made it real, like I might have this opportunity, what was that like for you?
I was in the car with Robert, and, I got the call, and I just got emotional. I obviously really excited. Your brain starts moving a mile a minute just about everything that it means to lead the program. I immediately started thinking about recruiting. I mean, I think as a coach, you always do that, just thinking about the roster, but I just tried to take a few minutes with him in the car and just really kind of sit back and say, okay, wow, like this is happening, and this is, what a dream for us. And we just both were really emotional about it. And then, the press conference, I just saw so many people that I hadn't seen in, 15 years that still work here because this place is so wonderful. People don't leave. And, so I just reconnected with a lot of people at the press conference and just saw a lot of familiar faces and a lot of new faces as well. And, I got up on the stage with Coach Tanner and I just got emotional. My parents were in the first row. Coach Compton was in the first row, Robert. And, it was really special in that moment. I feel like for me, it's even really special, that Coach Tanner is leading us. And, I was here in 2010 and 2011 when he was leading our baseball team to national championships. And so, just to be able to connect with him now as the AD and, just be able to have conversations with him about the program, it just means a lot to me, with everything that he's meant for our department.
Does it help or maybe comfort you to have I think this maybe is kind of what you're alluding to, but you have an AD who has been in the dugout. Like, he understands the ups, the downs, the grind of a season, of an entire year, where sometimes things are going to go your way, sometimes they aren't. If you maybe have a little bit more business-oriented AD, maybe there's not quite that understanding, but I know a lot of the coaches here just talk about the fact of having a coach as their boss/leader of this athletic department. What does that maybe mean to you along those lines?
It means everything, and I do think that he gets it from what it's like to lead a program and all the ups and the downs of recruiting and, just everything that comes with leading the program. And I do think it's special. I do think it's unique. And, a lot of our conversation over those first few days were about recruiting and the roster. And I just think you can have more in-depth conversation with an AD that has been a coach that you would not have otherwise. And so, we talked right away about recruiting, the vision of recruiting, the roster, what state the roster was in. And, he just has such an inside feel and an inside look at that stuff because of his experience. So, I do think that's, really rare, unique, and I'm really grateful for it.
So as exciting as the prospect of coming to South Carolina is, how hard is it to address your players and move on from where you were in Charlotte?
Yeah, it was really tough emotionally. Kudos to the Charlotte department for how they handled that with me. I had a lot of really emotional conversations. They've meant a lot to me for the past 5 years, and that was the perfect place for me at the time. And, I had a challenge in front of me, and everyone kind of got behind me there, and we were successful, and I feel like everyone felt a part of that. And so it was tough. It was a few emotional days leaving that behind. As a coach, you just kind of love your players and love everyone that's involved. And so closing that door, and obviously really excited about opening this one. I think the gamut of emotions it's a whirlwind, up and down, and just everything that you could experience. I think I felt it that week for sure.
I think we're about 5 minutes into this interview. I think you've said recruiting 5 to 10 times at some point. So I know that's like the lifeblood of every program. And, the portal can be like a blessing and a curse. And nowadays, when you take over a job, it's like, all right, you have to hit the ground running because there are players that are in the portal. They're available. They're wanting to take visits. They're trying to make quick decisions a lot of times. I know you talked about this in your press conference too, but how much long-term, like when you really kind of dive into roster building, do you think that's portal versus, maybe putting a fence around the state and high school recruiting? I know it's always going to be a little bit of all the above, but how do you sort of see that maybe morphing as you and your staff sort of get acclimated here in Columbia?
Yeah, you're right. You have to do it all. And, our staff is really focused on all facets of recruiting. I think for us, right now, right away, the portal is a way to get experience, get buy-in for players to come in everyone has a story. So you just kind of have to vet the story through the recruiting process with the portal and figure out what they're looking for and, giving them the experience they want the second go around in their recruiting process. So I think portal right away is huge for us of getting players in here that, want to be a Gamecock through and through, that want to bleed the garnet and black. I've had a ton of conversations over the past 10, 14 days about that. So I think portal right away, the portal's not going away right now. I mean, not that I see anytime soon.
Right,
and, so we just embrace it. I mean, there's just so many good players out there that, like I said, have a story that want to leave their current setup for whatever reason. And, we want to get the best players in the country. So, and that's going to be a process, a build, but, we just want to be really aggressive with that right away. I think, yes, we want to put a fence around the state. I mean, the best players in the state need to be a Gamecock, and that's probably going to take a little bit more time, just with more success and building the program where we want to build it. we're definitely going to attack that right away. But I think that's longevity, is that we want the best players in the state to stay here and come to South Carolina and play for this program. So I would say portal right away. And then after that, just putting a fence around the state. We've got some things coming in the works of some really good players from the state already. So, I think everyone will be excited about that.
Are you going to, I told the guys I was going to ask you this, Shane Beamer has kind of a bat signal on Twitter that he puts out when he gets a new commitment. He puts out the welcome home with the hashtag. The baseball staff started doing it too. So Coach Rooney, Monty Lee started doing it. They put out a little video. Are you going to start doing that?
We need to, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. I think our associate head coach, Katie Rekovich-Browder, she has deep Carolina ties. Her dad played football here in the 80s with George Rogers, and her sister cheered here and is now in the football operations building as there, Caroline Coleman. Katie is like Gamecock through and through, and she is a heavy hand in our recruiting. So, she's been having those conversations with me over the last few days of we've got to, get it going on social so people know, what's happening. But yes, we need to have something that is very authentic and, specialized to softball for sure. So we'll work on that. I'll have that here really shortly.
And then as soon as you drop it, Wes and I are going to be like trying to figure out who it is, what's going on.
So we can break a graphic for them. But
that's right.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. I don't think we can force this. Like, I think we got to take the time to figure out something that's unique for your softball program and put that stamp on it. But there has been how impressive you've been with kind of the fan reaction the last couple of weeks. Like, we on our message boards, like, we've seen fans asking about various players. I know you've already had some girls sign from the transfer portal. There's like some excitement about this. People are reading up on their careers to this point. It does seem like it's a fan base that is intrigued about learning more about your program right now.
Yeah, really impressed with the interest, and we love it. I mean, we want to fill the stands. We want the fan base to know our players and, just to really enjoy the program and, be really interested in the program. So, we really welcome that, really excited about the interest. I would love for all of those people to come to, Beckham Field and know the players and know who they're watching and, feel like they know their story. So, we're going to give as much information as we can. We love the exposure and just really appreciate you guys for everything you've done for the program in the last few weeks. But yeah, love the fan base and, definitely wanted to bring a lot of new softball fans on board. It's a great sport and it's exploding nationally with a lot of interest across the board. And so
we'll continue our conversation with new softball coach for South Carolina, Ashley Chastain, as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs rolls on your Friday here on the game.
We had fun yesterday out at Firehouse Subs in Casey, hanging out with our friends over there. Got to see some of our listeners. Appreciate everybody who came out. Firehouse Subs, of course, the presenting sponsor of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour every single day here on the game. And, man, we got to eat some good food out there yesterday. Some of our Firehouse Subs favorites, they even gave us a sample of the barbecue Cuban subs. Southern Roots with the Cuban twist is still around for a limited time only. I have a feeling it's not going to be around for that much longer, so make sure you go and grab it while you can, or any of your other Firehouse Subs favorites. Our favorite way to get it, the Rapid Rescue to go. Avoid the wait and order online by going to firehousesubs.com or download the Firehouse Subs app to earn yourself some rewards toward future purchases. Again, that's firehousesubs.com or the Firehouse Subs app. Shout out to Larry Chandler, owner-operator of all 14 Midlands Firehouse Subs locations.
Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, Chris Clark hanging out with you on this Friday. Ashley Chastain, new head coach for Gamecock softball, hanging out with us here in the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. And Coach, anytime a change is made, it's because the program isn't where it needs to be. So as you come in here as the new head coach of South Carolina, having played here before, what, in your opinion, or definition, I guess is the better word, is what South Carolina softball should be? What is the standard for what this program should be expected to do and expected to accomplish every single year?
Yeah, I mean, it's a program that has a lot of history and tradition in the SEC. It's one of the oldest programs in the SEC. And so, for me, there's no reason that the program should not be a contender to go to Oklahoma City every year. And we're going to have to build it to that. But it starts with the belief and in the thought process, the standard every single day as the kids walk in the building of that's the expectation, the standard. So that's where it's going to have to start, is just us instilling the belief in them that that's where the program should be. But for us, getting in the top half of the SEC, hosting a regional, being a national seed as a super host, I mean, that is going to be the path for us getting to Oklahoma City. And so, we've got to start accomplishing those things. I think it begins with being more competitive in the league and getting the players and the system in here that we need to compete at the top of the league.
How much tougher does the league get now with Oklahoma and Texas coming in? Two teams that just played for the national championship a couple weeks ago.
A lot tougher, yeah. But it's the premier league of softball, and I think it's really exciting that it just keeps getting better and better, and it raises the tide. I mean, it raises every single aspect of the sport. So I think the sport's getting better, and it just forces us to be better to be able to compete with them. But it does definitely make it tougher. They've got great players and a great system and great facilities. So I think with them coming in, it just elevates the conference and, just forces everyone to be better.
Do you get the impression, though, it's like I've always thought in baseball and softball, if you get to the point that you're competing in this league, and you're not going to win the thing every year you have these goals, but I feel like your goals are probably always where if you're reaching your goals every year, they're probably not high enough. You want to have your goals be at the top, but if you can compete in this league to where you're hey, we're competitive every weekend, that probably sets you up for postseason play. And then obviously at some point you're going to run into some of those same teams in postseason play. You hope, because that means you're competing at the very best. So how much do you think if the standard is to be a team that's competing to be one of the best in this league, that also probably means you're competing to be one of the best teams in the entire country, I would think. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, if we get the program in the top half of the SEC, which means that, we have an above 500 record in the SEC, with falling in that category of teams. Then we are looking at being a host for a regional and being a national seed. And, those things take care of themselves if you're in the top half of the league, because this is college softball. I mean, that's the top of college softball coast to coast. And so especially adding Texas and Oklahoma in the mix. It does take care of itself. And, but the players have got to believe the program is good enough to be there, so I really just to my core believe that's where it begins is, in the locker room, who's in the locker room, meaning the players that we have in the program, the coaching staff that we have, the support that we have, and just instilling the belief that that's where the program should be, and that's where the program is going. And that's a daily drip of that championship mentality every day at practice in the weight room. Those things just don't show up in May. You have to really instill that belief in the players from the beginning.
How much of, I know it's very important, but kind of, what's the breakdown between your belief and how you build a team? Because we know the best teams in the country, regardless of sport, they're all going to have the best players, right? And they're going to have a great coaching staff. But how much does that weigh in, just the culture piece and the team building and the belief aspect of things? Yeah,
I think we're recruiting first, right? So you have to bring in the talent because, anyone can believe they're really good. And if you're not really talented enough to compete at this level, then it's probably not going to work out. But I think, recruiting first and then development second. And in development, I incorporate culture in that and belief. And you have to go out and find the right players and the best players that you think can pitch, hit, and play defense at this level, because you have to be good at all facets. You can't just pitch. You can't just hit. You've got to be really good at all facets to do what we're talking about doing, of being in the top half of the league. And And then comes, once they're here on campus, creating a cohesive belief in the locker room that, we can get to Oklahoma City every year. And then, then our work ethic and our behaviors and our standards have to match that. Like it can't just be words on a wall. It really has to be that the daily behavior of everyone involved in the program. So recruiting first, talent is going to take you a long ways. But even just talent alone without creating a belief in a cohesive team, I think has a ceiling, and what we're trying to do here is not have a ceiling on what we can do. So I believe you have to have it all after you bring in the right players with the right talents.
So the league's obviously going to be tougher. You're dealing with a higher caliber of talent overall. Mm-hmm. What kind of challenges does that present to you as a coach now being here and dealing with those kind of things?
I think it just boils down to being able to evaluate, with the staff of, what do we need here versus where we've been before, of what does that talent look like? I mean, we've played the teams, I have a coaching staff of people that have all been in the SEC before, so we've played in those games. We have World Series experience on our staff. We have super regional experience on our staff. So we know what it looks like. We know what it feels like. And so we just have to go out and be really good evaluators of talent and people and, really find the kids that we feel like can help all facets of the program. So you have to be really good evaluators, I think. And I believe in our staff wholeheartedly. I mean, they're out right now working really hard to, build now, like we talked about. Like we've got to build now for the fall. And that's really been the focus the last 10, 14 days is what does the team look like in August? And then, okay, what does the team look like next August in the 2026 season? You kind of have to build it out and all at the same time. You just have to be really good at managing multiple years of rosters at this level.
Coach, I'm curious how much this place has maybe changed since you played here. I was trying to go back and figure out the date on when the stadium was built. I think it was starting to be built right when your career was maybe finishing up. And then I know you GA'd here. So y'all have a beautiful facility over there.
Yeah.
How much has like the facilities aspect and just the resources here? I know obviously NIL resources in any sport in college are going to be important now as well. Can you kind of speak to the resources you have and also kind of as you continue to build fan support, you obviously want to keep building those resources as well compared to maybe other schools in this league?
Yeah, so a little timeline. I mean, I finished playing in 11, and then Coach Smith gave me the opportunity to stay on as a GA as I finished grad school in 12. So as soon as we were done with that 12 season, they bulldozed what used to be the stadium. I'm sure we could find some pictures of it. And so then they built Carolina Softball Stadium as it is now that year. And so I didn't actually get to experience that. I had already left. So, just coming back, I've played here several times over the course of my coaching career. I mean, it's a beautiful venue. It's beautiful. It's one of the top facilities in the country. Now we're going to do some things to it, just to make it feel like it's, breathe life into it, energy, just kind of come in and make it our own. And, we're working on all those things. And most of that is for the players and the team. I want them to be really excited about walking in the door every day, that they feel like they have the same experience as any other SEC softball player. But the facility, the bones and the structure, I mean, it's beautiful. There's no better place to play. And you also have Willie B in the background. I mean, just the landscape is just, I don't know if it gets better than that. But, I mean, it's a beautiful place. And, it has a lot of history and tradition. You go and look at the wall, and it's been really cool to connect generations of Gamecocks even over the last 2 weeks over the phone. I've had a lot of those conversations. But yeah, I mean, from a resource standpoint, NIL is really important. NIL in softball is real, and, the best players are getting paid to go play at the best programs. And so we want to build a collective. We want to build support that, people are really excited about, our players, and, want to have that kind of involvement in the program. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's just getting out and telling my story and getting people interested in the program and interested in our players, that people want to financially support them and also want to give us financial support to go get the best players, so that everything we're talking about as far as getting to Oklahoma City, those things become a reality for us because people backed the program.
Last one for you here, Coach. Just a couple more minutes left. And you mentioned to us a few minutes ago a lot of excitement that you've seen already from people that are welcoming you in and what the softball program is going to be. For anybody that has maybe never checked the team out, maybe never been to a game, maybe never paid attention to what softball is doing here, what's your pitch? What's your selling on why people should pay attention and care about what this team's going to be doing going forward?
I would just say give us a chance and come watch us play. I think a lot of people that don't know a lot about softball associate it with baseball, and there are so many similarities for sure. And, I'm a huge baseball fan, but the difference in the game is it's really fast and it's a lot smaller of dimensions on the field. And I think people are just enamored by the pitching because it's underhanded. It's 43 feet from home plate. You can barely see the ball once it comes out of the hand. And so I think people that don't know anything about the sport that really want to support women's athletics and everything that women's sports are doing across the board right now, I would say just come watch us play, feel the energy that comes from the dugouts, that comes from the players' hearts and just the passion they have to play. And then on the field, like how fast and powerful the game is, I think people get hooked and then they come back and they come back. So I would say give us a chance, come out to Beckham Field, and then I think people are going to keep coming back.
Well, we're certainly excited to check out ourselves, and we want to thank you for not only taking a little bit of your time for us this morning, but also wish you and your team best of luck in this first season coming up.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Absolutely. Again, that is a new softball coach for South Carolina, Ashley Chastain. We'll be back with more of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on your Friday coming up here on The Game.
Anytime you want to come home, don't hesitate. Just text me and be like, hey,
Another one of our great partners that we love here on the Takeover Hour on The Game, our friends at Krantz Cooling and Heating. That's Krantz with a K, of course. KrantzCooling.com, Krantz with a K, cooling with a K, KrantzCooling.com. That's where you can go to learn more about their local HVAC services. They have been serving the Midlands as a family-owned and operated business since 1983. And once I heard of Krantz Cooling, I wanted to check them out myself. Loved my experience with them so much that I've had them come back to my home multiple times and even referred my mom to Krantz Cooling and Heating once she moved out to the Irmo area. They put in mini splits in our home. They can do that for you, but they can also do things like give you a free second opinion on coil links, compressor. They can do your service for you. New system, whatever you may need. KrantzCooling.com or 803-672-3224. KrantzCooling.com.
Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, and Chris Clark along with you. Appreciate everybody that was tuning in for our conversation with Coach Chastain on the Game TV, sponsored by our friends at Shepherd's Glass and powered by Integrated Media. By the way, if you want to go back and check out any of that conversation, you can go watch the replay on YouTube. You can also go check it out on the 1075 The Game podcasting site as well. And again, thank you so much to Coach Chastain for taking a little bit of her time. Obviously, very busy time when you come in as a new head coach of any program. You got to hop on the recruiting trail. Obviously, trying to get in a lot of transfers, which softball's already done a good job of so far. I know she's really can't talk about all those right now, and we'll have to wait a little bit to get more details on them, but obviously putting together a good team so far, and should be a very exciting first season for her as the head coach when that rolls around.
Yeah, we didn't really get into this. I kind of had it on a mental list of questions that we didn't quite get to, so she'll have to come back, obviously.
No, of course. Hey, the door, as I said, the door is open. She's more than welcome to come back anytime.
So, and hopefully we'll have some of her players on as well, maybe on the Garnet Trust Hour. But you know, I kind of look at it a little bit of a similar fashion. You think back, Tyler, to what Paul Maneri said when he was hired at South Carolina. And that is, this program is not in the doldrums, I think is the word he used, which is a great word.
Right.
You know, this is not, sometimes when a new coach takes over a program, you look at it and go, there's a lot of work to do here. You know, it's gone very, very bad. That's not the case. That wasn't the case with the baseball program because, yes, the baseball program had not been back to Omaha since 2013, and that's why there's been 2 coaching changes in Columbia.
Right.
But there's still usually been NCAA tournament appearances. There's still been regional hosting. There's still been some super regional appearances in the baseball program. It's about getting over that hump, being, I think, more consistent. But then obviously getting back to Omaha, those are the big goals. If you look at the softball program, it's not like they've been poor. They weren't poor last year. They made the NCAA tournament last year, this past season. They've had other tournament appearances. They've had some very solid campaigns. But, again, it's just about getting over that hump. And, you know, something that you brought up and that Coach Chastain talked about a good bit is you're now staring down the barrel of not only the SEC that's normally tough with the current other 13 teams that are in it, but now you got 15 additional programs that include what's been 2 of the best programs in the country. So if you take, like, kind of zoom out and take a look at it, you're going, all right, what is kind of the trajectory and the direction? If we keep going like this, as it gets even tougher to compete, can we compete? And can we not only kind of, you don't want to just tread water.
Sure.
Can you take that step forward? And South Carolina made the decision of, as an administration, we need to shake it up and try to get better. And, you know, certainly Coach Chastain comes here not only as a player, that's a bonus that I think will serve her very well, but has a track record of success. And, I mean, y'all, we just heard her talk. I mean, seems to completely get it and be all about the right things. And the amount of times, like you said, Wes, that she mentioned the word recruiting should make you feel pretty good.
Yeah, I lost count. But, guys, I think the modern coach knows, the successful modern coach knows that ultimately, like you have to be able to recruit and you have to add talent to your roster. And we hear a coach speak a lot about we hear a coach speak about culture and belief and kind of the TV movie stuff about sports. The reality is what she said.
That was a perfect answer.
The reality is
yeah.
you better have talent. And that goes back to recruiting.
Yeah.
And so now once you have the talent, do you have to then mold the talent? Do you have to develop it? Do you have to mold your locker room and your team and like that camaraderie and all that stuff? It all plays a part, right? But that let's not pretend that you could take a team of not as talented players in any sport and convince them they were great. They're ready to run through a wall.
Right.
That's like the whole, obviously we talk football a lot here. There's this sense a lot of times from people, oh man, Coach gave this great pregame speech in a movie, and everybody there is ready to.
No, they're clearly going to win now, right?
Yeah.
Yes. That pregame speech lasts as long as the first play of the game.
And the whistle blows.
And then you realize you're playing Alabama.
Right.
So I think, that I loved that non-coach speak answer
Yes.
of you recruit like that. That's it. And then now, do we see teams too, Chris, that have all the talent in the world, but then don't have the development piece or don't have the culture? We do, and that's another animal. Mm-hmm. But that was my favorite answer.
Yeah, that and you kind of basically said what I was going to try to articulate in that, there have been a lot of very, very talented teams that have not won anything, that have not won a title. There's never been a team that's won a title that's not very, very talented, though. So it's all about getting the pieces in, getting the players in, and then that development piece, which includes, I like this, she also included, yes, it's the culture, it's the belief, but it's also, developing them as players as well.
And I think something that's important to point out here, and I think we said this when she was hired a couple weeks back, is it's great that she's a former player at South Carolina, great that she's been here before, understands the culture, traditions, and all that kind of stuff, but she's the right person for the job. She had success at Charlotte, a program that had never really done anything of note in their history as a softball program, took them to back-to-back NCAA tournaments. Again, you move on from Coach Smith because you're going into an even tougher SEC and you want to be able to take that step forward. She's the right choice to take that step forward. She just happens to also have been a former South Carolina player. Like, that's just a bonus in addition to what she is as a head coach.
Yeah, we really could have gone a full hour. I know she's got a lot going on, so I didn't want to request too much of her time, but I wanted to ask her if we had time about what it was like to do things that had never been done before. Because I remember, she talked about being here when South Carolina won the 2 baseball titles with Coach Tanner. Yep. And then obviously at that time you had Steve Spurrier in football who was doing things. And, Steve Spurrier, I'm convinced 90% of the reason he was at South Carolina was the chance to do things that had never been done before. And so if you go through that bio and what she and her staff, let's give them credit too, what they did at Charlotte, there's a couple of different for the first time in school history, they won a conference championship. They went to the tournament 2 years in a row. And, they were in a position where they were doing things that had not been done before. And I think that says a ton about the recruiting, says a ton about the development, and then that belief part as well. But you look at some of the girls, and we didn't have time to get into specifics, but some transfers that have signed, several of them from Charlotte. But you look at Adriana Rhodey, she could play for anybody in the entire country, and she was an All-American, basically the top first baseman in the country this past season, hit 22 home runs. I was looking at the Oklahoman. They obviously cover softball very closely because Oklahoma is, I guess you would say, the standard.
The
right
dynasty.
Now. Yeah, they're the dynasty. They're the standard. And they had Rhodey as the number 3 overall prospect available in the transfer portal. And so she's starting to add, like, the reinforcements are on the way.
Right.
And but I know listening to her talk, she knows and she believes, like, you have to, they're going to have to keep adding that to compete because this league it's just so loaded. But, you could, I'm sure, listening at home, listening in your car, you could just feel and sense kind of the excitement and the new energy that has been added to this program.
Yeah, plenty of reason to be excited. And again, we're going to be very interested to see, what that first season of Coach Chastain at South Carolina is going to look like when softball season does roll around. And again, if you missed any of that conversation, you can go back and watch it on our YouTube channel as well as check it out on the podcasting page, which we'll have up for you shortly. We'll come back, we'll wrap up today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. And a story we haven't been able to get to this week in regard to coaching staff changes in college football. Something I want to hit on for a couple minutes before we get out of here on your Friday here on the game.
All right, y'all. I know everybody's got things they want to do at their home. Maybe a little renovation you've been putting off. Call our friends at Midlands Home Renovations, one of the top-rated general contractors in the Midlands, and let them try to take your dream, your vision, and show you how you can make it a reality. They can do that for you if you head on over to MidlandsHomeRenovations.com, set up a free quote on there, or you can just call them, 803-956-8204. If you go to that website, again, you can set up a free quote. You can get a list of their services. Also, you can check out a gallery where you can check out some of the other great things they have done at homes around the Midlands, from kitchen or bathroom remodeling to a whole home renovation. They have the expertise to handle projects of any size and complexity. Their team, again, is going to work closely with you to make sure you get the exact outcome you want. Again, call them today, 803-956-8204.
Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game. Reminder, craft beer card is back. Go online to 1075thegame.com, click on the Sweet Deals tab, purchase yourself a craft beer card. Spend $30 brewery at 12 different craft beer locations. It's a $360 value, all yours for just $79. Wrapping up today's show, this is something we've been meaning to get to this week, and we have not gotten the chance to. The Division I Council passed something earlier on this week that will allow for unlimited staff sizes for the upcoming 2024 football season. And that means things like analysts, quality control coaches can now be involved more in on-the-field things, practices, games, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't mean they're suddenly going to go out and hire 100 new coaches, but it gives, They might. Maybe they can. But it just, at least in the short term, allows guys already on staff to do a little bit more than they would have previously been allowed to do.
Chris, what's the driving force to this change?
Well, can I make a joke first? How many coaches in quotation, well, now just actual coaches, not even in quotation marks, how many would Nick Saban have had?
Oh, 1,000.
7,200.
One coach for every player.
Yeah.
Everybody,
Personal
that's his
coach.
recruiting pitch. I can see Kirby Smart right now.
Have a personal development guy for you.
Kirby Smart has already conceived. We're going to give you a personal coach. I can't do it.
Who's that guy? That's Carson Beck's coach.
Yeah. just him. That's even the quarterbacks all have a separate.
Yes.
No, I mean, I don't know. That's interesting. When you ask what the driving force is, I can't pretend to know. I think maybe it's a way for the NCAA to say, hey, we're all about the players. We're going to give them more. And frankly, guys, look, Shane Beamer's even said this publicly. He's like, talking about special teams. He's like, we have a dedicated special teams coach. We actually spend time on it. Said a lot of schools just say they have a special teams coach and they let an analyst illegally coach the special teams, and that does happen. There have even been some schools that have gotten busted for having analysts coach, right? It happens at a lot of places, to a degree. But
dare we say everywhere?
Yes, dare we say everywhere. Don't want to levy any accusations, but it might just be part of like, hey, this thing happens. Like, why are we still trying to litigate this? But I think it's interesting because in this day and age, in 2024, when athletic departments are kind of looking around going, how can we trim some of the fat? How can we trim some from the budget? Well, now you might have some programs, if they can afford it, they might onboard, hey, here, remember Nick Saban would pull all these former coaches to be analysts. Well, now you can pull them and make them an analyst who can actually coach.
Assistant inside outside linebackers coach.
I mean, here's what I think. If you look in your crystal ball, at what point are we going to look around and there's going to be, let's say for the quarterback room, there's going to be a evaluator who's a former NFL guy, there's a scout for the quarterback room.
Yeah.
There's a recruiter for the quarterback room.
Yep.
And I'm obviously I'm taking this thing to the extreme, but right now if you're a quarterback coach, you're normally the offensive coordinator as well. So you're in charge of evaluation, you're in charge of going on the road recruiting, and you're in charge of actually developing and sort of helping that quarterback reach his potential. Well, what if you split that up now? There's already talk about, do you start to separate the evaluation piece as college ball goes more and more towards professional? The NFL, you have this entire scouting department. The coaches coach. And do they maybe have a say? I guess. Probably depends on which franchise you're talking about. But for the most part, those guys over there are doing the evaluation and the drafting, and then these guys over here are doing the coaching. Some coaches are great recruiters, not great developers. Some coaches are great developers, not great recruiters. At what point are you just saying, we're going to get a guy who can evaluate and recruit, and his job is just going to be that? And let's put that guy on the road, because now the analysts can coach. Put that guy on the road, and this analyst is going to be the coach.
Yeah.
So now there are issues with that too. If you're ultimately, don't you want to know who you're playing for? Don't you want that guy himself to come by your school and recruit you? Of course. But I do think there is the chance that we get further and further separation between the evaluators and the coaches, because of the fact that you have more flexibility in what you can do with your staff.
I don't know why this is, but maybe y'all have a bright idea. Pete Nakos from On 3 wrote a story about these changes. He said the move also ensures the NCAA doesn't face any future legal action from college football coaches, maybe for limiting their opportunities for advancement.
Yeah, I was curious. I was curious about that as well. I didn't know what ground they would have against the NCAA.
Yeah, I'm not really sure on that.
Does that violate antitrust? I don't know.
Well,
everything else does.
You can go take a different job as an on-field coach.
You can't just sue any business because they don't give you a better job.
Hey, I don't know. That's what it says. Maybe we'll have Pete on. We should have Pete on sometime soon, because we can
catch a great idea, Chris Clark.
On a bunch of things. Thank you. I did end up having a decent idea. So, but Pete also noted that some sources told him that we joked about the personal quarterback coach, and what you were just talking about, Wes. Quarterback, middle linebacker, don't know why, and special teams are the positions where they could benefit the most. Now, special teams makes sense because a lot of coaches, Johnny Holstaff that, or have an analyst coach it. So,
do we even have middle linebackers anymore? I feel like what I think of as an old school middle linebacker,
the neck roll.
Yeah, those dudes don't exist.
Jasper Brinkley.
All right, everybody, flood Chris Clark's Twitter and tell him happy birthday.
Oh. Happy birthday, Chris.
Thank you. I'm not as dressed up as Tyler was on his birthday.
I wear a button-down shirt one time.
Tyler, are you going to sing the happy birthday?
Well, we're out of time now.
To Chris. You can do it off air.
All right, that'll do it for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Halftime show myself, Terry Ford, coming up next here on the game.
All right, let's tell everybody again about our friends over at Integrated Media. They've been out to my home. They've been out to Wes Mitchell's home. They can come out to yours. They can do so many really cool audio-visual projects for you. Now, maybe you've got something simple going on like just, needing a TV mounted. Maybe you've got a bunch of game systems